podcast where Catholic moms come to learn how to build a business that is simple, holy, and profitable. I am your host, Sterling Jakewith, and today I'm talking about being a married Catholic entrepreneur. So I'm in a Facebook group called Catholic Women in Business. It's amazing. You should be in there. And so sometimes people ask questions, even though not all of the women in there are moms. And so there was this mom who was saying, a woman who was saying, I'm about to get married. So excited. What's some advice you have for being an entrepreneur and being married? And I loved this question, and I love talking to engaged couples because I think there's just so much wisdom and so many tools that we could give people in their engagement process that would radically change how they go into their marriage so that they set themselves up for success. So I think this is such a great question, whether you were an entrepreneur before you got married, whether you've been married for a long time, whether you've had your business for a while, right? These tips are going to be so helpful because it's a continual process. It's not a one and done step. And so I just want to share with you what I think is important when you are a married Catholic entrepreneur. Okay, so number one is managing expectations. And I think that this is really important before you get married and just at every stage, right? When you have one kid and then 4 kids. And then my husband and I just talked about our expectations for the summer. And we've been business partners and both had businesses for a long time. So we've worked a lot of things out. But this is the first time we've had kids this age in this house over the summer, right? It's different. And so we're kind of like, hey, do we need to adjust anything? And so just managing expectations and saying things out loud together in a really calm way where you come to the table believing that you want what's best for each other and that you are going to support each other and that you have the same vision. Okay. I'm going to talk about if you don't have those things in a little bit, but for right now, let's just say you believe you have the same vision, you support each other, and you trust each other. Okay. And I've talked a lot about more on the Made for Greatness podcast, the challenges in my marriage and the painful things there. This is one thing my husband and I do really, really well. We are very good business partners. We have very good and healthy business conversations. And I really like the way that we talk about and manage our businesses together. And so a big part of that is, like I said, managing expectations and checking in often. So you want to ask things like, especially for this woman who's just getting married, hey, what's important to you, husband or husband-to-be? Do you care if I work in the evenings? Do you care if I work a little bit on Saturdays? Right? So for me, my husband and I are usually fine with one or both of us working for a few hours on Saturday morning. And then we kind of knock off at about 10 or 11. And then it's kind of house stuff, family stuff after that. And we have a hard no working rule on Sunday, except for planning. So on Sundays, I love to get in bed with a notebook and a planner and plan my week out, but I'm not working. So I've made that kind of distinction for myself. That's the only thing, no other working. Okay. So just checking in with your husband about, hey, what's important to you? Now, just because he says something doesn't mean you have to do it. It's kind of a two-way conversation, right? And you'll both have ideas about things. And so, hey, do you want homemade dinners? Do you want me to make dinner? Do you expect that dinner will be ready when you come home? Right? Those kind of things. We pretty early on realized that my husband liked cooking. He doesn't like cooking, but he really likes eating exactly what he wants. So it's funny that that is a different thing. And so he makes a lot of food exactly how he wants and is okay with that. He's not like, oh, Sterling's working again, so I had to make dinner. But we had a lot of communication around that. And we still, again, check in often. Like if he's got a busy day or some clients in the evening, in the beginning of the day, I'll say, hey, I'll take over dinner. Or did you have a plan for that? I can do it. And so we're just kind of checking in and having each other's back over those things. When we're allowed to schedule things. And change things on the schedule. So there was a lot of talking for us about that. Like if my husband would put a hike on the calendar, but then I was feeling behind in work, could I skip the hike? Would he take some of the kids? Would he be disappointed? right? And there's no right or wrong answer. You guys just want to know that you're on the same page, because otherwise there will be a lot of unspoken assumptions, and then often it leads to resentment or bitterness. And really, it was just we didn't communicate about what we thought was going to happen or what was important. And so there are some things that are very important to my husband and other things he doesn't care about at all. And I've just learned not to guess and just to ask him. And that's the best policy, especially when it comes to making my schedule. And we will check in with each other about what things get blocked off on the calendar. So right now we both have calendar software, and it doesn't allow us to book calls at the same time. So every once in a while it'll come up that a meeting or a class or a client will want to meet with me at a time that he has a meeting or a class or a client. And I will ask him, is that okay? And there are certain times when he will say yes, and certain times when he'll be like, you know what? No, this is really important and I need you to be with the kids. Or we don't always have a great internet connection to support two things at once. So we would never run like 2 sales calls at the same time, or even 2 coaching calls. But he could run a coaching call and I could attend like a class, and I can hotspot in from my phone. So it's like all of these things we've had to work out over time. And part of what feels good for us is that we have the same vision for our family. We both know the businesses that we're building, where we're going, why it's important. And we've done that many times, but at this point it's, we live in a remote place. And so our businesses have to grow or sustain enough that we can afford to live in this place where there aren't other jobs. And that's really important to both of us. So we both prioritize a certain amount of our businesses to make that happen. Now, it's also incumbent on both of us to say things like, hey, I think you're working too much, or you seem really distracted or distant lately. What's up with that? Okay. And that leads me to my next point, which is there is a way to be working in your mind even when you're with your husband and your kids. So even though you're away from the phone and the computer, you're still working in your mind. You're not being present with your family. And so that's something you can work on personally. I don't know that your husband has much to do with that, other than if he says, hey, it seems like you're not with us right now, instead of feeling defensive, which is really the natural and normal reaction to come up, just be like, oh, maybe that's true, or maybe it's a little bit true. How could that be true? And being willing to receive criticism gracefully, right? And I think that's just such an important part to being married, and particularly when one spouse or both spouses are entrepreneurs, is just receiving criticism gracefully. And I'm trying to think of where that came up. I think it used to come up where I would plan things last minute, and then I would just act like they were a really big deal and like it was a fire, and I would expect him to drop everything and watch the kids while I finished my course or did a launch or something like that. And I remember him saying like, hey, I think you could have prevented this kind of feeling if you had just planned it a little bit further in advance. And he was totally right. And now I plan things way more in advance. And I try to get them done several days before the event or the thing, so that then when the technology isn't working, I have 3 days to figure it out instead of 2 hours, right? And that was something he requested of me. I don't remember if I handled it gracefully at the time, but that is kind of my goal, is to handle criticism gracefully. And I will tell you, I'm able to do that in our business because I believe that he loves and supports me and trusts me, and we have the same vision. I do not receive criticism in other areas of our life as gracefully. So it's not like, oh, I've figured it out. It's just for some reason, we just are really clean about the business stuff. Okay. So knowing what your rules are about phone and laptop stuff, like, are you in the living room kind of on your laptop? Are you checking your social media on your phone? Is that okay with him? Is that okay with you? What are the boundaries that you want around that? And again, all of these things, you can pick them and then change your mind. So it doesn't have to be something that's permanent. You're just going to say, hey, let's try this schedule or this structure and see how it goes. Okay, check. Yeah, I think just also affirming the goals and the vision. So I remember early on, I would work and it felt really important to me, but I wasn't making a ton of money. And so my husband would say, like, hey, I think this is taking too much time. It's not really making that much money. And really, I don't know that we had this language back then, but hey, this is more of a hobby. So I need you to give it hobby time, not job amount of time. Right. And we had to figure that out for ourselves. And now, I make a lot more money. And so actually, for me, it's more, I constrain myself down to 30 hours of working, even though I enjoy it. And I often want to work more than that because I think it's fun. So constraining and saying, hey, the constraint now is time. And I want to constrain. I'm making enough money. I don't need to work more than that. This is what I've decided. This is what we've decided for our family and how it's going to look. Okay. So I just want to end with, if this was maybe a painful episode for you and you were thinking, gosh, my husband isn't supportive. He doesn't trust me. We don't share the same vision. There's tension there. I totally get that. We have that in other areas of our marriage. And I just want to say it's really challenging when you're a person and you don't have great communication and you don't feel loved, supported, trust, those kind of things. So just know that is really painful. We're not going to push that down or be dismissive of that. And then I want you to take it to the Lord. I want you to say, Lord, are you calling me to this work? If you're calling me to this work, I need you to be a way maker for me, Lord. I need you to make a way. Can you soften my husband's heart? Is there a way that I should be showing up differently? Am I believing things that aren't true and that's making me feel fearful and angry and then I'm reacting from those emotions? How can we bring peace and trust and love and surrender to the business? And I know you think like, oh, if my husband was different, this would be better. But I'm telling you, it's something you got to work out with the Lord. And then when we work out our heavenly relationship, our earthly relationships tend to get better. Okay? So take hope that God does not call us to things he won't lead us through. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy and no conflict. But if he's calling you to business, he will make a way. And he is on a journey with your husband too. So I just love saying, Lord, you work it out with my husband. You guys are on your own thing, your own journey. And I'm going to trust both of you to figure out whatever your piece is. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I responded to her post, but I thought, gosh, I want to do a whole podcast episode so I could reference that so that when you guys have marriage questions in the future, I can just say, great, I did a whole episode on that. So as a reminder, I am hosting a workshop called Focused, How to Get Work Done When Your Kids are home, and it's May 26th, 27th, and 28th. So go to madeforgreatness.co to register, or if you go to my Instagram account at madeforgreatnesscoaching, there's a link there. And those are the two places that you can go find it and register. It's free, and it's just going to be incredibly powerful. And even if you can't make it at the time, which will be 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, I'll send out that replay every day, and you'll have those recordings, and you can watch them whenever it is convenient for you because, hey, we're all moms, and I get it. So I love you. I'm praying for you. Get to work, and have a blessed day.